Welcome to Meet the Maker, where we spend some time with craftsmen and artisans from around the area to shed light on the disciplines they pursue and why they do it. To kick off this series, we're talking to Aaron Dykstra, a high-end bicycle fabricator and Air Force veteran. Aaron started the Making Foundation, a school enrichment program that allows students from Roanoke City public schools to earn a grade by working with their hands and creating items from scratch.
Maker Mart is it's an actual location. The Making Foundation is a nonprofit that I started. The Maker Mart is our first location. I really would love to expand this, but this is an old grocery store. It was a functioning grocery store from 1941 until 2011. I got my hands on it and we started the rehab to turn it into what it is today, which is a community making space, but a completely analog making space. In doing what I was doing before, I ran a custom bicycle company, 611 Bicycle Co. in hometown manufacturing, where I made custom fillet brazed, lugged, custom bicycle frames. It's very akin to getting out like a custom suit made. It was something that I was very fortunate to have I'll say a decent amount of success with. After a while, you realize, hey, I'm making these $10,000 bicycles. Ultimately, what impact is that having on the world? While I really enjoy it and take a tremendous amount of pride in my craft, ultimately I think it left me feeling a little bit empty. Being over on Shenandoah Avenue, I had a big shop and I'd leave my door open and I had bikes and motorcycles and all kinds of just cool stuff in there. And I'd be in there welding and I'd start to see neighborhood kids kind of pull in and peek into what I was doing, and they'd be very interested, very curious. They'd come up and start talking to me, and they'd see the bikes and ask questions, and then they would leave, and then a couple days later they'd come back with broken bikes and say, hey, can you fix this? And I'd always say, nope, but I will show you how to. So we'd put it in the stand and give them the tools that they need and show them how to fix it. And it was a really cool experience for me. I was certainly, a little bit aloof to the importance of that moment, I'll say. And it took me getting tied in with the manufacturing community a little bit more. Virginia Western was holding a manufacturer summit at the time. These giant manufacturer CEOs sitting in a room, everyone was wringing their hands going, what are we going to do about the workforce? What are we going to do about this generation gap? We have this huge, they kept referring to it as the silver tsunami, where everybody's retiring in the trades world, and they're really struggling to find these people. That was the moment where I went, wait a minute, we've got these kids that are really interested in that. And instead of trying to talk to them about how exciting an assembly line on Elizabeth Arden is, let's talk about something that they're interested in. Bikes. That's something I know. It's what worked for me. Let's meet them where they're at on that. We really get a wide band of kids in here. Originally, the intent was to mostly focus on middle school kids. There's a lot of kids that just don't know what a machinist is, and if they found it, they would absolutely fall in love with it. If you just see welding, you're probably going to picture working inside a muffler shop. That's probably the initial reaction. And it's such a wider range than that. You can work for NASA. You can do anything and make a tremendous amount of money. If you have the basic skill sets, which is something that I think we're all either born with or not. And I think there's a lot of kids that are born with those skill sets that just completely fall through the cracks. I'm one of those kids. I had no concept. I had never stepped inside a machine shop. I didn't even have a shop class in school. It was just something that always appealed to me, but it was very, kind of a removed option for me. Having a purpose is so important, and a lot of the kids that we serve don't feel like they have a purpose because they don't see people around them that really feel like they have a purpose. When you start expanding on what the students are good at, it ends up opening these doors and ends up correcting what they're bad at once they have more context for this stuff. And that is a really valuable thing. Encourage making mistakes. We just have to correct them after we make them. And that's how you learn. we get kids in here that are they get a lot of pushback, it was a big focus of mine in creating this is to not make it feel like a stodgy workshop or shop class. Like I didn't want the big boring oak desk and kind of that feeling of the crusty old shop teacher, although I'm very, very self-aware of the fact that I'm becoming that crusty old shop teacher. Funny how that works. But having it feel starkly different to them. And that was a big thing because it is kind of a shock to the system. So I get the kids in here and we do have that attitude. So many of these kids, they're used to being in trouble. That is their baseline. They come at this of, I'm going to get in trouble because that's where I feel comfortable. That's what I know. I know what it feels like to have the teacher frustrated with me. That's where I'm coming from. And what I'm trying to tell these kids is like, I'm not frustrated with you. If you're not into this, like go have a seat. Like I'm not mad at you. Like I totally understand why this wouldn't be appealing to you. It's really appealing to me, but it's not for everyone. And what you find is when that kid goes and sits down and starts watching what the other kids are doing, they very quickly come over here. And I've had kids that, really push back so hard. And some of those same kids, once those light bulbs start going off, and once they see that, like, I don't want them to be in trouble. I like them for who they are on their own, not because, it's my job to babysit them. Like I'm coming at them and treating them like human beings and kind of giving them a fresh start every time. And that is a huge component to kind of breaking that attitude and making them feel more comfortable to where they want to come in here. And those kids that push back so hard end up being the same kids that when the bus is here at the end of the day, they're at school from, basically 7:30 on, and I've got them at 6:30 and the bus is here. They're wanting to keep working on their project. It's like, wow, how do we bottle this? How do we get more out of this? Because that excitement, that desire, if you can get that out of a 7th grader, we need to be applying that in a much larger tense. I'm really someone who tries to avoid duplicated efforts on things, and there are a lot of people in the community, in the region, in the country that are doing really exciting things within the realm of career and technical education. I just want to be the farm AAA ball team for them. I want to get the kids ready, get them early. I'm not beating them over the head with, these are your career options, take a pick off this list. I'm just saying, let's make cool stuff and see what happens. And what that does is it lets them realize their potential. That's something that I really want to carry on. I'd love to find old grocery stores, finding these kind of derelict spaces in underserved communities and turning them into, it sounds a little dramatic to say, but turning them into empowerment centers where kids can come in and realize that they have value. This truly is an investment in the future when you look at what we're doing here. It is not a immediate instant gratification because we are dealing with 8 to 18-year-olds. But that being said, we've got 18-year-olds that we are placing in jobs that have gone through this process that otherwise would not have those connections. And that's a huge thing. And that's something that I am a huge advocate of spreading. I have yet to come across a community that can't benefit from that.
Riveting, right?
In today's world, true craftsmen are becoming scarcer as society seems to have forgotten the importance of skilled labor. I'm determined to prove that the trades are in fact alive and well by finding the next generation of artisans, craftsmen, and trade workers that are doing their part to keep the phrase American made in this country's vocabulary. I'm Tay Whiteside, and this is Behind the Craft. After driving down historic Shenandoah Avenue here in our hometown of Roanoke, Virginia, the crew and I find ourselves right next to the Norfolk and Western Railway at a small shop called Heart and Spade Forge. This humble shop is run by my friend Jed Curtis, who traded in his life of teaching high school chemistry to pursue blacksmithing as a full-time gig. I've seen some of Jed's work being sold at stores around the area, and I wanted to get the full story on his love of shaping molten steel.
My name is Jed Curtis. I am an artisan blacksmith, and we're in the heaviest room in the world, otherwise known as my workshop. Heart and Spade Forge is the official name. I call it Nirvana. Professionally, I'm a chemist. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Chemistry from Roanoke College, and actually used that and taught high school chemistry for a couple of years before actually jumping full time into this venture. But I've been doing this forever, and kind of the collection or obsession was started as a young child, 5 or 6. I think I got my first hammer when I was 4. For whatever reason, you give a child, a 4-year-old a hammer. And then I got my first anvil when I was 6. And so this has kind of always been in the background. I mean, it's always kind of been part of who I was and what my interest was. I technically am completely self-taught. I've never taken any organized class or apprenticed under anyone. Someone told me, and I kind of can attest to this, is it takes about 10 years to figure out if blacksmithing fits, because you're not going to learn it in a year. I'm still learning things now. I really don't think I'm going to even ever perfect the craft, and because it's such a athletic endeavor. It's not just creative, it's not just understanding the fundamentals. The metal becomes a record of change and a record of your effort put into it. What brought me into cookware was, a combination of probably divine intervention with pure luck. I was standing in Target looking at it. We wanted a bigger cast iron skillet, and I picked it up, and it has that stupid stubby handle. It's heavy, it's off balance, the finish sucks. It's like cooking on a gravel road. It's awful. So, and I'm sitting there thinking, I make things out of metal, as every day. I can do better than this. So I made kind of my first skillet, and it performed just beyond my wildest expectations. I make primarily skillets. They're the number one. And then I also make I call it a baker. I've also moved into griddles. Recently, I'm gone into utensils, spatulas, bacon presses.
So, can I help you with anything at all?
I mean,
other than what? I have a hard time watching people work. I have some experience
welding, so we figured, we'll try another alternative to attaching steel,
right,
or fastening it. And this is kind of an old way, but tried and true. I mean, these rivets hold together. There's still steam engines that are 100 years old that are still, held together through hot riveting.
So because you're hot riveting, it's going to shrink and really.
You're not, yeah. So you get you're forming two heads, just like a nut and a bolt,
right,
would. But the difference between a rivet and a bolt is all the volume within the fastening is occupied by the rivet.
This is a baker?
This is a big griddle. This is one of the larger pieces, and kind of heavier too. So it still needs to be polished and everything, but this is
I could just see like Sunday breakfast was such a big deal. I might like bacon, eggs, onions. Yeah.
Oh yeah. how it kind of pulled in on me a little bit. So that's why you got to be real. This is one of the harder parts of actually riveting.
Yeah.
Because you got to go straight down and set that rivet kind of flush-ish.
Because the meat of it's still right in the center.
You want it to be. If it gets offset, you can get leaks and stuff down the road. It's not as structurally sound as I like it to be. So yeah, that's it.
It became immediately apparent to me that there's a very fine line here of getting hot enough but getting too hot.
Yeah.
And it was that's the window that I didn't know where it was. So I was like, I'm glad you took it to make it happen. So I was like,
well, and that's the nice thing about carbon steel too, is it's I kind of consider it a very viscous liquid.
Yeah, if you work with it enough, it does start to feel like a clay.
Well, and that's when you achieve that level of control too.
Well, cool, man. Thanks for letting me mess something up.
Yeah. That's what's great about this. You get very good at hiding your mistakes.
Right. Yeah, or someone else's mistake.
There it is. Mine is forged carbon steel, and so mine are forged to shape. You're actually manipulating the grain structure and reducing those individual grains in the metallic crystal that will increase the mechanical properties of the material. I told someone you could run over one with a truck and you'd break the truck. And it's overbuilt, but that's what I'm proud of. And it's beyond that. It's because it's forged, you don't have to use as much material, so it's lighter. Because it's lighter, you're able to control the heat easier. A cast iron it takes forever to get to temperature, and then you're done cooking, and it will continue 10 minutes. In my opinion, it's a perfect combination of craft, function, application of science, how the seasoning works in there, how the heat transfers through it, how does food cook? You're making a tool at the end of the day. How best can you suit the needs of those that will be using it? I want to listen to what they want, how do they use it, do they like it, how does the handle feel? I want that handle to kind of reach out and give you a handshake.
Well, Jed, all this talk about skillets and cookware, I was hoping we could cook some lunch.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I want to see how a blacksmith makes burgers, though.
I don't know about that. I'll make the skillet. You make the burger.
Okay, that is a more than fair trade.
I like it.
We got 90% lean Angus.
Oh yeah.
Help the figure.
Yeah,
You don't get enough exercise, I know.
It's that left arm that needs it. You are going to cook different than I am, different than the sous chef, different than the guy who really likes fish. It becomes a living thing. It ages, it doesn't age, it enhances, it improves with use. What in our modern world does that? Our iPhones die a little bit more each time we charge them. Our cars are no good once we drive them off the lot. But these skillets are built to last centuries. And are gonna be better tomorrow than they are today. And it's so exciting to see that. It's exciting to to see what people are creating with this and to see how their skillet has become a reflection of them and become almost a living thing that has its own soul, its own personality. It's a legacy. This is something that's going to last well beyond my lifetime. That's the one thing everyone wants to inherit from the grandparents is the family skillet. And, it's in the fact that I'm making these, kind of one at a time for specific families and getting them engraved and getting wedding gifts with, their initials or names engraved into it with a date. I mean, that's something special. It's not just an H&S skillet. It's granddad's skillet or it's grandma's skillet. This is a bit much, but I'm granting people immortality and the fact that it, is hopefully inspiring. It sits there on the stove, and you look at it and you just want to cook something good.
I hate to say it, but I sort of get why some people might just hang them on the wall.
No, yeah, totally. Hell, you see all mine on the wall.
But it defies all the science behind it just to hang it on the wall. But at the same time, you should take that at least as some sort of compliment that it's like, it is a work of art.
It is. I really want to keep this my creation. I love the fact that I look at any of my work and I know every line on there was created by my hands. I know that's selfish of me, but I value that. I really feel like that's an important part of my story. It's fascinating, it's hard, it's frustrating, it's one of those things that it's gonna test your patience and everything, but when things go out and they leave the door, it's the best product that I'm proud to put my name behind.
What do you think so far, Riles?
I think I want to hear that thing. I want to hear it. My ears.
Well, you also
Heard in my ears.
get to pick the amp. We got a box.
Oh boy.
In today's world, true craftsmen are an endangered species, as society seems to have forgotten the importance of skilled labor. I'm determined to prove that the trades are in fact alive and well by finding the next generation of artisans, craftsmen, and trade workers that are doing their part to keep the phrase American made in this country's vocabulary. I'm Tay Whiteside, and this is Behind the Craft. Today, the crew and I find ourselves in the township of Vinton, Virginia, 15 minutes outside of downtown Roanoke, in the home shop of my good friend Wyatt Allen. Wyatt and I became friends through our mutual love of all things mechanical, and I always wanted to learn more about his skills as a custom guitar builder, or as it's known in the industry, a luthier.
My name is Everett Wyatt Allen. Most people call me Wyatt. The business name is Ball Instruments, B-A-U-L, and I've been building guitars since 2007, something like that, 2008, and it's the great addiction. It's a good addiction. A luthier is somebody who builds a lute. The old version of a guitar was called a lute. I think it stems from Italy, I do believe. Somebody who's building a guitar from scratch. So my family played bluegrass when I was a kid, and they started me off with different random instruments, different this, different that, and put a violin in my hands, and it's like, it just didn't feel right. You know, I played different instruments, and finally they're like, we need a bass player. Here's an upright boy. So they got me an upright bass, and it fit so well. The upright bass is just one of those instruments that you can fill in with any group, any band playing bass. You get the groove going on, and I latched on to a groove, to some deep pocket. Bluegrass, taught me a lot about fundamentals and theory and getting things right, tight and right, patience, but I needed more overall. But yeah.
Riley and Walker, the other two members of our production team, couldn't wait for Wyatt to start walking me through his guitar making process, as they have been musicians for most of their lives and couldn't do much to hide their excitement for these beautiful guitars.
It was either music major or mechanical engineering, and I applied to Virginia Tech for mechanical engineering early and never heard back from them. Virginia Tech.
They did the same thing.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I didn't do a safety. I was like, I only applied to the engineering school with a 3.7 out of high school. Nah, dude.
And then the other one was apply for music at VCU, and VCU, they called me back, and I did an audition, and they were like, yeah, we want you, get in. So I got a bachelor's of music performance for upright bass from VCU. And so I've always been mechanical, and always been thinking about music in a mechanical way. And how can I manipulate the gears within music? How can I play a role and move something and push something and take something back and pull in many directions? It's always a mechanical, logical, left brain sort of mindset to music. I'm really good at backing people, and I'm really good at getting a band sounding right. My favorite roles to play in classical was a small ensemble, because there was a lot more scrutiny on me as a bass player. But I really enjoyed the hair standing on your back when I have to get this note perfect.
There's no safety net.
There's no safety net. Right. I love that.
What brought you from upright bass in an ensemble environment to like guitar in bars, restaurants, music venues, that kind of thing?
Well, if you tend to be a broke musician, somebody calls you up and says, I want to pay you some money to go play, and you're going to say, yeah. So I was in college, and I took this class, Physics of Sound, and it really just started putting all these pieces together. I could take math and run through frequencies and understand music theory dedicated to frequencies. I can run the string and understand harmonics and how transfer of energy goes through different materials, and there's just the densities of wood and the densities of all these other little pieces, and then running and starting to understand how different scales are set up, equal temperament versus just intonation, having frets and having all these little pieces, and then all of a sudden you look at a guitar and it's like, well, I understand why. I understand why they did this and why they did that. Let me take this Fender guitar and rip it apart and see, why did you build this? Oh my gosh. And then there's the industrial point of view of how to spit these instruments out in a good quality way where you could still alter them. It's fascinating to me to find the smallest little part and piece of a guitar, to question what is the end result, what is the sound, how can I manipulate this for a musician to better say something beautiful on stage.
What kinds of things did you change?
So the biggest thing that I changed, so this is a typical Telecaster, Fender Telecaster body,
Okay.
right? And the biggest thing that I changed is the horn usually would go up to here. So in my playing style, I've got a very straight wrist, and so if I were to cut that horn off and lop off a good 1.5 inches, something like that,
You can slide up.
I can slide up and catch another fret without having to bend my hand up. This is a regular Tele body.
But if I never saw this, I wouldn't look at this and think that there's anything out of place.
Yeah, it doesn't seem too out of the ordinary.
Which is kind of a win-win as far as a modification standpoint goes, right?
I think so. I've done some of them that are maple, popular, whatever I can get my hands on to give a shot and see what these different woods, how they react to the routers, how they react to sanding, how they look, how they sound.
I was about to say, and ultimately how they play. I mean, different poplar and cherry are very different in hardness. That must affect the sound.
Absolutely.
Somehow, right?
Absolutely. More dense a wood is, the more actual vibration transfer you're going to get through that wood.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, so, but on the other hand...
It's like sustain, basically, right?
A lot of times sustain. So, but if you have a softer wood, sometimes you won't get the clarity out of it because the wood almost soaks up some of the high end.
These are two of the biggest things too, neck, body, but you do electronics too, right?
Yeah,
Like that's,
yeah. I've wound quite a few pickups, messed up a whole lot of them. The pickup selection is crucial to what sound you want. Started with the pickups and the electronics and manipulating what kind of sound to get. And of course, you know, being broke, you can only afford but so much. So the big one was I wanted a guitar and I couldn't afford a decent guitar. So I ended up buying somebody's project. So I bought this guitar. It was a Fender Telecaster, and it was all in pieces and all in parts, and it was just like crappy this, crappy that, crappy that, but this is good and this is good. Well, I don't know why it's good, but I'm gonna give it a shot. So I started putting together and buying parts and pieces, and I think it was like $250, I built a guitar that was worth a good $450, $500, and I loved it. So in today's industry, there's a few different ways that guitars are being made. There's a lot of them that are being made very well. Your Fender Squier series, like honestly, they're doing a really good job at taking a cheap guitar and putting some quality parts in it these days. I've been surprised, really surprised at how good some Fender Squiers are these days. There's been some Fender Squiers that are just terrible, and I can't believe you just can't adjust them without snapping the truss rods. Your tuners are terrible, your hardware is terrible, your pickups are terrible, your electronics are terrible, your paint is terrible, everything about it is just terrible. And if it's got a $100 price tag on it, yeah, it's only worth $100. It's, you know, probably not even worth that. If you go to a custom guy, somebody who's building something from scratch, there's so many avenues that you can go. So, for instance, having somebody who has the experience on the bench versus on stage can guide you to what you actually want. There's a stigma to say, like, you get a custom guitar made, oh my gosh, it's gonna cost you just thousands of dollars. Like, that's not. What you're paying for is my experience on the bench to say, well, these parts will be good for you. So it's not always this massive expense. It can be if you want every little detail to be altered in a way that you can't buy something off the shelf.
Just because you can make full custom doesn't always mean that you should.
No, not at all. The bulk of when I make money with luthier work is usually repair work. So I enjoy doing old instrument repair to bring something that's messed up back into the world. I remember I had a mid-60s Gretsch, and the fingerboard was just like bowed like crazy. I had to rip the whole fingerboard and put a whole new fingerboard on it. But at the end of the day, that guitar is now back in the hands of the man that used to play that when he was a kid. And it was so much fun seeing the giggle in his face when he had his childhood guitar working again.
So it's not always about trying to sell someone on the biggest and best.
No.
You're more, what do you need?
Yeah.
And what do you have?
I take myself as a servant more than a salesman.
This guy builds stuff for a living.
Play, monkey. After seeing all the detail involved in Wyatt's guitar making process, it gave us a newfound appreciation for how a guitar makes sound and why playing one of his custom guitars feels as special as it does. It was at this point that production of the episode ground to a halt, as we all got carried away playing the different guitars Wyatt had made and forgot why we were even there in the first place. That being said, none of us, with the exception of Wyatt, were really able to put these beauties through their paces. But you know what? That didn't bother us at all. Because we were having a great time. Dude. It all makes sense now.
Good.
Like, you can talk about the wood and the electronics and the assembly process and what it all in theory means, but once you start putting your fingers to strings and you hear the sound, it sort of amplifies, pun intended, the significance of what all goes into a guitar and how it hits you when it's done, you know? What's it feel like to see someone light up? Sort of hit that aha, like.
That's the best part. That is the best part. When they finally get what they need, their tool that they can craft, that they love, or something unique that they've been looking for a long time. The light on their faces is beautiful. There's a lot of humanism and happiness that goes along with helping people get what they actually need in an instrument and playing music and having that musical language with each other. It's beautiful.
All about, right?
Yeah, people. It's beautiful. I geek out about the math and the physics, when really it's all about the people. So I feel like I'm really good at figuring out what people need versus what they want.
Even if they don't know it.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody wants to give me a stupid amount of money to make them whatever they want, it doesn't mean they're going to be happy with it. So if you can get yourself to where you can build, you can manipulate, you can focus on the music as opposed to the instrument. I love that part. But if you can't, then you call me.
Dude, thank you, man.
Absolutely.
Try to get better at playing.
You do that.
fast press. There you go. Woo! Yep.
Ah, damn it. I printed one on the back. Damn.
So I have a collection.
I so did that.
I have a collection of those.
Yeah. What did we expect to happen, honestly?
So this will be with me for a while. That's good.
In today's world, true craftsmen are an endangered species, as society seems to have forgotten the importance of skilled labor. I'm determined to prove the trades are in fact alive and well by finding the next generation of artisans, craftsmen, and trade workers that are doing their part to keep the phrase American made in this country's vocabulary. I'm Tay Whiteside, and this is Behind the Craft. John Rayburn is a graphic designer and vintage printmaker that practices his discipline here in Roanoke, Virginia. I've known John for the better part of a decade because I grew up working at Black Dog Salvage, an architectural salvage and antique store that he has a consignment booth in under the name Appalachia Press. I've always seen his work walking through the store, so when we got the opportunity to come film with him for a day, we had to jump on it. The crew and I grabbed our gear, drove down to the building he shares with Press merch, and shoehorned ourselves into his beautiful workspace to see what we could capture of John's amazing craft.
We are in my super secret studio. I'm John Rayburn and I'm a letterpress printer. I have a card line that we sell. There's 300 designs in the card line, and that keeps us alive. That is probably our number one bread and butter. I grew up at Smith Mountain Lake, which is not far from here, and Frederick, Maryland. And so when I took off and went to college in Arizona and then on to LA for years, I always knew that I would return, but when you return, you actually want to bring something back. You want to do something with it. And so I had the really good fortune of moving my last design company into this old building, and there was one of the best letterpress printers. Her name was Claudia Laub. She was in that same building. And I have always wanted to be a printmaker. She was the through line for me to that this could actually be a career. LA can have 12 letterpress printers and everybody's good. But when you go to a smaller town, there's not enough business. If you're considering just being the local printer, there's not enough business. So I chose Roanoke because we didn't have one. Your effort in a smaller community has a bigger impact. There are so many good people doing good work here in this region that I want to make sure that it's seen. I want to promote it. I want people to get it. But Appalachia, the name felt so right with this machinery, with this process, with the age and the time and the place.
You mentioned that you've always been a maker, but was there a different part of you felt you could express with printmaking once you found it?
It's always been that attraction to print. So the physicality of printmaking, it was my love. I really felt it. I mean, with letterpress, it's layers. It's color on top of color on top of color. You have to be able to figure out that puzzle, but you have to figure that out early on in the design process, how it's going to be cast, how it's going to print. That stuff is exciting to me, but then once you put it on the press and that physical work, that's the joy of it.
All right, John. Well, there's only so much I can learn about your business without wanting to get involved to some degree. So what do you want to make today? You got something you're already making that I can...
We're going to do a St. Patrick's Day card today.
Okay. Oh, that is fantastic.
And how beautiful.
All right, we've got our paper. What's next?
So the setup is the most important. It's very crucial to get everything set up. I'm going to draw in the basics of where things need to land.
Okay.
And they tend to have a purpose for being at a certain height, like when it's on the shelf, the artwork needs to sit up.
Because that bottom quarter is covered, is buried in the
card below it. This is cast.
Yep.
And made for the press. There's all different sizes from, it goes from the
look at that.
10 by 12, 12 by 18s, 10 by 15s. There's a chase for every size press. This is a key. This turns. It expands.
Oh, look at that.
It pushes the wood together, holds everything in place. And the classic measure twice, cut once?
Oh, if not 3 or 4 times.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, and then all of these little pieces of wood, like Jenga, Look at that. Fit together.
Yeah, and so you just start building up.
And you start building up. So we come over here.
Okay.
I always look at the personality of building this. Everybody has their own way of doing it. So it's just how I do it. But so we're gonna give that a shot. Let's see what it looks like. So all this is good. This is the first color. So I don't want to do too much of an impression because we really want to hit the second color with the really fine lines. We want to hit that, but that's perfect for a first color.
Awesome.
Good. So for Clover, I want to do something bright underneath because we're really going to cover it with a darker color.
Hit it with that darker green later.
It tells you 15 parts yellow, 1 part processed blue. Okay.
Okay.
It really is just a matter of like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
I see.
It's really a basic system.
Just find a standard and repeat it.
Right. So it'll mix.
It really is mixing the color.
Yeah.
I love how it turns the turntable every time.
And then with the same sort of, look at that, never really used.
Yeah, this is a full can of ink.
Full can of ink.
And just
And then we go 1.
It's surprising to me how fast it spread it evenly across the table.
But being slightly impatient,
Right.
I help spread it along. I take a little finger and I always just press it on white, and that's a nice color. That is very close to what we wanted.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, that is almost bang on.
It's not too much ink. It's not too wet. Pop this back into place. Let it ink itself.
And it just takes 1 or 2 passes right there.
A couple times over.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna see what we've got. And that looks good to me.
Oh, look at that.
That feels readable. That feels good.
Yeah, look, you can read everything in your logo.
Everything is there.
You make the chaos of this machine seem pretty calm. But if I were to jump in here, I would almost 100% think it's moving too fast.
Right. I want to see everyone. I want to know how it's going. I think there's an attention to detail when you're sitting here doing it.
Yes. Well, yeah, you become really intimately familiar with what you're creating and what you're looking for.
Let's move on to color 2.
That is so cool.
So I'm adding a little bit more blue. And we're gonna let the rollers do their thing.
Just seeing this on a rack in a store, it's so hard to understand what has actually gone into creating the texture and the cut, the depth.
And you're missing I illustrated that earlier this week. And
yeah, all that
illustrated and then had it sent off for casting. So after we print today, I'll go home later, fold them, sleeve them, price them, and they'll be in the store tomorrow.
Right. Hot off the press, as they say.
They will get shipped out immediately. Nothing has changed in like the beginning of print 500 years ago. These all basically print the same way. There's no real change in technology until the current 70s, 80s, when it became digital, when it became easier to print. Printing processes today, it's a surface print. It's ink on the top of paper. It's it is quick and relatively inexpensive. No interest for me. So I love the fact that these machines actually, you can use better paper, thicker paper. It digs into the paper when it presses. There's a beauty to this. There's a physicality to it. There's a talent to it. When email hit, everybody said it was the death of letterpress, was going to be over. It only solidified. There are people who write letters. There are people who want correspondence. There are people who send thank you notes. And then there's not. It didn't really change my business. I didn't lose business. It just really got rid of, the middle ground, and the same people still write, which I love. it's called communication, people. When all we get in the mail now is bills. Our paper is so beautiful that when you get one of those little packages in the mail, when you get that envelope, it's remarkable. It's a gift in the mail. It's so wonderful that I think that's what separates it. I think sending a thank you note today is a remarkable thing. So the name of the series is?
Behind the Craft.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's do craft in wood type. So
Okay.
if you could pick out the CRAFT.
Got it.
And I'm going to do the metal type back here. So everything is backwards. So we'll do CRAFT. So then we're just building this into place.
And there's a certain amount of space that will be taken up by this,
Yeah.
right? And then you drop the bottom in
Drop
first.
it in. There's
right?
a catch at the bottom. If you line it, yep.
See.
There we go.
And then lift
Watch your
this
fingers
up.
and go, yes.
That's spring loaded. Okay.
There
Gotcha.
we go. Locked in.
All right, so we can advance.
So I would give it, you can throw the brake and let's do, and hand turn that just to
Okay.
give it our shot to see how, what the pressure's like.
Yeah,
see
no,
what the
trust me, I'm
padding-
cool with slow
There we go.
right now.
Okay. Keep going, push, 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 because it's going to bite.
Oh, I see.
There we go. Look at that.
Oh, how good is that?
Unbelievable. Now, you want to turn the motor on or do you want to do it by hand?
I kind of both.
Okay.
Let me maybe
Give
do
it
a
a shot.
few more and I'll
Okay.
kind of run through the motions.
Yeah.
Oh. I'm a little nervous, honestly, but
Confidence. Come on.
I feel good though because there's not a whole lot of variables. This is an on-off switch really, and that's an on-off switch.
Absolutely.
And this
Right.
is either in or out.
Right.
So it's really
Right.
all you're working with. And it's this motion, right?
It's that.
Bang, bang.
Yep. Yep.
All right, I'm gonna hand crank and sort of just go for it a few times.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah, I love that font.
Just cannot beat wood type. It's beautiful.
Oh, this is fun.
Amazing.
I think let's try the motor.
Okay. So throw the brake. Now you want to get a look, when you turn it on, you want to get a feel
Okay.
of the rhythm. You've always got the brake, not to print, but
Right. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and load so we don't do that.
exactly. Okay. Let it go one rotation
To get up to.
to get the speed. Give that poor antique motor a break. There you go. Okay. Okay. It's a fast press. There you go. Woo!
Ah, damn it. I printed one on the back. I printed one on the back. Damn.
So I have a collection.
I so did that.
I have a collection of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
What did we expect to happen, honestly?
But if I were to jump in here, I would almost 100% think it's moving too fast.
Right.
I change this maybe every 3 months, so this will be with me for a while. It's good. And to think I made a clean one for you.
Oh,
There we
that
go.
was foolish, wasn't it?
So good.
Oh, man.
No, I know, but you see the rhythm? You get in the rhythm,
Yeah.
it'll happen.
One thing I noticed I did immediately was when I grabbed it, I grabbed right on the lettering.
Oh.
And so when I set it down,
Right.
my finger stuck a little.
That's
and I was
absolutely
like,
true.
Oh, no.
You always want to grab to the white space, so that you don't have,
Yep.
right. But these are live and learn. This is all the, you'll get it.
This is exciting.
It
Like,
is.
my heart's pumping.
It's good.
Yeah.
Get the music going
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
just get in it. It's good.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Get the jitters out on us. Okay, that's off.
Okay.
We're gonna do a full rotation.
Yeah. Yep. Right.
Throw it.
Yep. That's why fanning that paper out makes it easier to grab.
Oh, I went lefty.
Let it, yeah, okay. Okay. Yep.
Oh, no.
See, it's a fast.
Oh, yeah, I got the last one. I got the last one.
It's set fast. This is for me. So I'm impressed that you actually motored through
There's
that.
a lot going on there.
Yeah.
I feel good though because there's not a whole lot of variables.
But this is why you can't talk. It's why you can't. I was trying not to speak while your hands were in there. You can't talk. You can't be distracted. You can't drink.
Not at all.
You really
Yeah.
just have to be focused on what you're doing. as a safety issue. It's what it is.
Oh, of course.
But how about this? You walked away with a few little thank you notes.
That was exhilarating, genuinely exciting.
I think it's exhilarating. And to think about that this is what I do for a living.
Yeah, that's.
So every day, I come in and produce and make something.
I get it now.
It's good.
You sure you don't need an extra hand around here?
I always need an extra hand.
Well, John, I appreciate your time letting me. This was one of the more fun things I've done in a while.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thanks for loving it.
I love it. I'm glad. I love that you love it.
I think it comes down to handwriting. So many times when you get an email, it's misconstrued. The language, how you've said it, there is nothing. In a handwritten note, you communicate through the way it's written. You get a feeling from it. I have boxes of letters from my grandmother. When I went to college, she would write all the time. But her handwriting was so exceptional, and it was just her handwriting. That personality comes through with the handwriting. There's emotion, there's feeling, you get it. And it's a big deal. I think that's a really big deal. It really is, it's my love, it's my life, and I don't have a lot of free time. I do this because I love it, and I'm always doing it. So even when I'm out, out in a normal day, I'm always looking. It's a visual thing. You're always searching for the next idea. You're always looking for something that's going to be the next print job. So it's a 24-hour love for me. I do it all the time.
Big metal table, blue welding machines around you. So
right at home.
At least so far, I'm with you. You're gonna lose me over there, but I'm with you so far.
You don't want to penetrate all crazy, you know? You just want to run it down and keep it held together. Here we go. Billet is welded up.
Okay.
At least welded. Now it's time to forge weld.
Oh, it doesn't fit in the hole.
See? Those welds, man.
Oh, shit. That's what's keeping it from fitting?
I'm just going to flatten them, yeah.
In today's world, true craftsmen are becoming scarcer as society seems to have forgotten the importance of skilled labor. I'm determined to prove that the trades are in fact alive and well by finding the next generation of artisans, craftsmen, and trade workers that are doing their part to keep the phrase American made in this country's vocabulary. I'm Tay Whiteside, and this is Behind the Craft.
I'm Travis LeBlanc from Alpine Customs. I'm a knife maker in Richmond, Virginia, and we are at my workspace. Originally from South Hill, Virginia. My parents have a 150-acre cattle farm with shops full of tools that I played with and broke as a kid and learned how to either hide from my dad or fix myself. So that kind of started the whole thing of, being a little bit crafty with my hands and playing around with different things until I figured out what they did or didn't do. I learned everything from my dad. My dad, he always taught me how to do everything he knew. It all started when my buddy was getting married. I was his best man and I wanted to get him a really special gift, and I hit up a couple custom knife makers, and they were just outlandishly expensive, or so I thought, until I got into it, because I figured I would make him a knife and it would mean more coming from me. So I made one, started buying tools, and then I quickly realized why they were so expensive. The time, effort, and let alone cost that go into each and every knife is just more than people really realize.
So what was that first, oh, I can do this, right? Like, what was that first try? How'd that go?
I thought at the time it went pretty well. Looking back now, it was ugly. It was, I mean, I had no technique. I didn't know what I was doing. The heat treat well, the knife hasn't failed actually, so I shouldn't trash the heat treat. But it's just a big, bulky, you know, something you would expect to be somebody's first knife. I got and have remained addicted. I make the joke that I work really hard so I can make more money, so I can buy more tools, so I can work really hard. And it's just a vicious cycle. Oh, I started with handles, then I made handles and knives, then I made handles, knives, and sheaths. And it's just one thing after the next, and it's like, kind of need to relax and just specialize in 2 or 3 little things. It's usually you're either a scale maker or you're a knife maker. And knife makers usually just really rely on scale makers, and I feel like that's one of the things that set my stuff apart. I make everything. When I moved to Richmond, I was selling knives at a local outfitter, Green Top, and I had an expo there, and a guy came through and invited me to a shop, said that they had a nice knife set up, wanted to show me a few things, and I showed up here and never left. I never sold a forged knife until I moved here, and I've only been forging for probably the last 6 or 8 months. I'd been doing stock removal up until that point, and still do, but my passion is forging, and it's more fun for me. It puts more of me into the knife, literally sometimes. So I try more and more to forge just as much as I possibly can. I grew so quickly because I've been around nothing but excellence. The 3 guys that I work with, I revere as world-class, and I would say most everybody reveres to them as world-class. The work that they put out is just impeccable, and the work that I was putting out, I would always put in their hands and say, hey man, look this over for me. And they were ruthless, which is what I wanted them to be. They were brutally honest and said, you know, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. Like, either go fix it or live with the fact that you're selling that knife to somebody and it's not the work that you could be doing. Whatever they told me, I took as truth and did it the way that they said to do it. And that showed me the correct way to do things, which a lot of people search. They scour the internet for years. They trial and error for years. And I was blessed with 3 guys saying, this is how we do it. You know, there's other ways to do it, but this is the way that we found to be right after we worked for years to learn it. Every single day you come into the shop, you learn something. You'll mess something up, and that's one thing about blacksmithing, you gotta learn to take that on the chin. If you mess something up that you've been working really hard on, you can't just throw it down and go home. You gotta start it over and learn from your mistakes.
What is Damascus?
So Damascus is layering 2 types of steel or several types of steel, one on top of another. Today we're going to use 1084 and 15N20. Both are carbon steels, but one has a higher nickel content. So once you smash it all together, draw it out, make your knife, you'll have layers of steel. And when you put it into an acid, the acid will eat away at the steel with the less nickel, and the one with the nickel will remain silver, and you'll get a really nice contrast black and silver pattern, depending on how you stack it and how you manipulate the steel.
What's the point of Damascus steel?
It looks awesome. It is just as functional as any other knife because they're nice, hardenable carbon steels. But the selling point is the aesthetic appeal that comes with having patterns that you either intentionally or unintentionally put into the blade. Being in a worker space like this where everyone is working with their hands, everyone is doing something different than everybody else, really encourages you to keep pushing it, keep your imagination flowing, keep trying new things and trying to come up with something to, set you apart, and at the same time encourage the other people that you work with to do the same. Nothing you make is exactly standalone by itself. I feel like Damascus gets kind of close to that because you have some control over what the steel does, but there's every once in a while you'll just hit something a certain way and it'll manipulate the steel to make this really cool pattern, and there's no knife with, it's like a fingerprint, man. There's no knife with the exact same pattern as the knife that you get when you buy a Damascus knife. None.
It's a good line.
Let's get hot. Let's get hot. Well, you're gonna laugh at my weld here in a second, so there'll be that.
You want me to?
You want to weld it?
Yeah. Can I?
Absolutely.
Because you're gonna outclass me later. I might as well at least partially
You need
prove
to do
my
something
worth.
right now.
God, look at. Do you ever use this thing?
It's bright. I got it for my birthday.
Look how shiny that mask is.
I got it for my birthday, man.
So we want to put a weld down the corner here.
Down this corner, and right down the middle.
Down the center. Okay.
Yep. On both sides. So it's gonna be 6 welds total.
Okay, I can do that. We made a hammer.
There it is.
What's next?
All right, billet is welded up.
Okay.
At least welded. Now it's time to forge weld. So we are gonna heat this place up.
Oh, it doesn't fit in the hole.
See, those welds, man.
Oh, shit. That's what's keeping it from fitting?
I'm just gonna flatten them,
yeah. So what's happening here is my welds were too fat. I put too much weld on there because I'm a welder and I'm like, I want to do it right. Because of that, it won't fit in the forge. Come on, just shove it in there,
I'm gonna
Travis.
2x72 it.
Can we shut this off?
Yeah.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
This is the last time it's gonna look like this.
Goodbye. Nice welds. Yeah. That press has some power.
30 tons of it.
30 tons. Nice.
Hot. That's hot.
Yeah, is it hot?
Forms it on the sides. Watch yourself.
Yeah, okay. Ah, right.
So you get that, and a D-lam will be a black line down this.
I see, okay.
So see how these lines are all good and orange and yellow?
Right, yeah.
They're good welds.
So is it one piece of metal yet?
Yeah.
It's been welded.
This is one, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that is awesome. You can really get a lot of control with this.
Oh, a ton.
That is so cool.
Yep.
Let's go. God, you can feel that in the floor. That is awesome. You can't buy it, in my mind, unless you understand the story, the feeling, the effort, you know, like.
Sure.
That's why I, at least, would buy something like this, because I know my boy Travis made it.
Right.
And he poured his heart and soul into it.
That's right.
And he probably bled on it and sweat on it.
Over and over.
And he looked at it for hours and hours and made it with intention. Like,
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I imagine that's why you do it.
Yeah. I would love to do this every day of my life for a living. This is the dream. I'd love to go back home and I love my hometown. My family's there. I would love to just go back there and this be my way of life.
I almost don't want to ask it, but I'd be kicking myself if I didn't. Can I try?
I would be upset if you didn't ask.
The glove. Okay, so this is for somebody. I don't want to mess it up. How easy is it to mess this up? God damn it. I printed one on the back. Damn. Yoink. I'm glad you took it to make it happen. So.
This is for somebody, but there are at least 2 more stacks that are to be done and then hand forging. So this is like the step where you could mess up the least and also the hardest one to mess up. Let's do it.
Back in?
Couldn't do it better myself. There you go.
I was scraping the shit off the top.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man, that's fun.
You want one now?
Yep. Dude, so I mean, this is 85% of a functional knife.
Very
right?
much.
You've got what some would consider an edge. I know most don't
right.
consider an edge. But from here, I know the Damascus is in here somewhere.
Yep.
From here, you etch it and get something like that.
Sure.
And then you put a handle on it, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, I would love to stay for all of that, but I've got dogs at home I got to get back to. But dude, I have genuinely enjoyed time here. Thank you so much for having me. I've known you for years and I've finally made it out here.
Yeah, finally.
It is so cool to see you and your element doing what you love to do and that you truly do love doing this.
Absolutely.
So I'll let you get back to it.
Yeah,
and
man.
I can't wait to see that knife when it's finished.
I'll be sending pics.
See you, brother.
See you, man. When I make a knife, it's not just a knife, you know, it is something that person is going to cherish forever and will hopefully cherish forever and, you know, give to their kid. And with Damascus, it takes on a even more meaningful role. So there's something to be said about making something that's not only going to outlive me, it's going to outlive generations. And it's a piece of solid steel that performs a task that will never go away. And It's just, you know, kind of making something tangible and almost permanent is glorious. First and foremost, it takes a passion. You gotta love doing this craft to do it. You know, guys that do this full time work twice a regular full-time schedule for not always twice the money. It's not about the money. You gotta really enjoy, like I was saying earlier about making an heirloom. You gotta love doing it. You were talking to me on the way up here, and it was 8 o'clock on a Friday night, and I'm still in here working on stuff, and I got buddies going downtown, and I don't care, because I would rather be working.